Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel, and welcome back to a series on games that changed my life. Games that got me to where I am now. I'm a full-time board game reviewer, but what are the steps that got me to that process? So I'm doing 20 games that changed my life, and today we're talking about, well, kind of a joint two games here that both have the same theme, and that's both Battletech and Battletech the collectible card game. Now, I talked about collectible card games with Overpower and Star Wars collectible card game. Those both just kind of blew me away with this idea of collecting games. And so when I saw Battletech had the same thing, I didn't know much about Battletech, and I thought, well, this is an interesting thing. I'll buy some of these Battletech cards and see how that works. Now, if you've never played the Battletech collectible card game, there are a lot of similarities between it and Magic. In fact, it's published by the same company. But even to this day, I think I like the gameplay of it probably better than Magic, because you could attack your opponent's pile, their discard pile. You could attack their resources themselves. There were speeds of the mech. It was really cool. But as I played this Battletech collectible card game, I noticed there were quotes and stuff from books, and I thought, well, this is interesting. I've never read this. I don't know anything about Battletech. So I went and started reading the Battletech books. And I read a lot of them. I read, and read every book I could hunt down. I would go to the local Books A Million and sit there in the store and read books. If I couldn't afford buying the book, if I could, I would buy the book. I found friends who had the books. I borrowed them and I read them. And then that led me to the Battletech miniatures game. Now, there's a couple things I want to point out here. This was the first time that I had done anything that brought me into this whole universe. Overpower and Star Wars had their universes to some degree, but with the Battletech, it felt like it was a universe that I could be part of. With Star Wars, I almost felt like I was watching it, and same thing with the Marvel stuff. I was watching it. But with Battletech, you could be your own pilot. You could create your own mech, especially in the miniature game. You could design your own mech, and in fact, when I look back at the amount of time I spent in Battletech, the board game, I spent more time creating mechs than I did of actually playing the game. But Battletech also was the very first time that I played essentially what was a miniatures game. We set it up, we had a board, we had these robots. I believe I bought a box called City Tech, which came with a bunch of miniatures, because I went to the store and looked at the little little pewter miniatures. It's like, wow, they're so expensive. But this one box has a whole pile in it. And then I went and bought the books, and I just pretended that mechs were different mechs. And then you played, and you would move, and you would shoot, and there were modifiers. And this was like, well, it's a little bit like a war game, but it's different because you're moving, and there's terrain features. And I never seen any of this stuff before. And so Battletech, to me, I'm always thankful that I played it because, one, it introduced me to that universe, which I still love and enjoy to this day. I think the Battletech universe is a really cool. Michael Stackman, Lauren Coleman, these folks wrote really interesting books, and I loved reading those. But it also transitioned me out of collectible card games for a bit into miniatures games. And it didn't bring me fully on board, but it did pause the whole collectible craze for a bit, and I was sitting there and I felt like a general. I sat there with the different miniatures moving around, and we would sit there at college and try to figure out the best way to build a mech and to stop it from overheating, and our missiles better or our lasers better. I had so much fun designing things. I felt like I had a part of the game that I was able to customize and create to my own liking. And this idea of miniature games, something I don't do a lot of now, was so fascinating to me because we played on this hex grid, and then someone said, well, you know, you don't have to play on a hex grid. You could actually build terrain on the table. Whew, well, that was kind of pricey and expensive, but it's an interesting idea. And so the Battletech games not only introduced me to that really cool universe, but also introduced me to miniature game. And as my gaming group, I was constantly starting gaming groups in college, continued to meld and mold, and collectible card games were kind of expensive for us. This was a little bit cheaper and allowed me to let anybody play, because I could say to my friend, hey, here's a sheet, here's your mech, here's my mech, let's just play, rather than say, well, you need to go buy your own deck. I still do miss the Battletech collectible card game. The Battletech miniature game I haven't played for a long time, although it still exists and they still make stuff for it. But either way, these two games and this universe definitely changed my life. I'm Tom Vasel. We'll see you next time.